If you've seen my last two videos, you would have noticed that I have used a certain book to get my point across regarding certain furry matters. That book is this one right here, Draw Furries. In my first episode, I used it as a set dressing, and in the following episode I went as far as using it to represent the furry fandom's rise to mainstream status. But now I feel it would be best to go further into the book and give a more thorough examination and address everything important and worthwhile that you should know about Draw Furries. So let's start with a basic introduction to the book. Draw Furries is a how-to book for learning how to create anthropomorphic and fantasy animals created by illustrators, and forgive me for mispronouncing the names, I have never been the best with names, Hodges and Lindsey. Cibos. They're best known for a series of manga called Peach Fuzz, which tells of a kind but lonely girl named Amanda, who adopts an imaginative and naive ferret which Amanda names Peaches. Together they must find a way to meet on common ground in order to overcome the struggles of day-to-day life. Beyond Peach Fuzz, Hodges and Cibos are also known for an array of tutorials on ponies, manga, and 2 follow-ups on drawing furries. Draw more furries, and furries forever. Ah yes, 4. The broad wordplay that the fandom has for this 3-letter indicator of location or possession that someone or something is bestowed upon is to be admired, for it seems that the word for has become the staple to the fandom's undying love of puns for no reason whatsoever. Now in all seriousness, Draw Furries is broken down into 8 chapters, 5 of which are of actual anthropomorphic species that are the most commonly seen in the fandom. The remaining 3 chapters focus on additional accessories, coloring, and perspective. We're treated to an informative and slightly humorous introduction, followed by a helpful visualization that helps new artists to the world of furry art learn to differentiate between traits that make the drawings look toony, semi-realistic, or as real as possible. Following this, we are treated to some basics in human anatomy. Ironically, I found this page to be the most helpful, for you see, I never think about my proportions and gender differences, so many of the tips shown here I found myself writing down and looking back to when I need a tip here and there to keep my figures in the proper perspective. With each chapter, we're given a guide to drawing faces, full bodies, features such as paws, tails, and feet, a set of action poses, a variety of different variations, helpful for your character's proportions and style, and a quick guide for morphology, depending upon the species you are drawing. Now, I found that the body and head tutorials came up short on detail. If they would have gone into more of the molding of the head, where the head starts to look more anthropomorphized, specifically around the muzzle of the character, that would have helped younger artists. I find younger artists struggle with these things, and it leaves their muzzles looking quite blocky and unrealistic. The bodies were also an issue for me. It seems for the basic body shape that we were given a drawing that was already a quarter complete, and for some who are a little slower with laying a foundation for the character's shape, I feel that a broader layout of the steps, not just basic shape, then add limbs, then cleaning the shape, but rather a more in-depth approach to the basics of the shape that make up the foundation to a good furry art would have been better. On that note, I find that a highlight of the current steps is also helpful, but that's just me. However, when it came to the features, I was impressed by how I was able to draw hands and feet with such depth. For many artists, hands and feet can be quite a challenge, and other books I've used, or basic page tutorials in general, never seem to give me the results I'm looking for. I never aim for perfection, or even something realistic, but rather, I feel like I'm looking for something that's just a foot or a hand, something with the right shape that holds the proper size and proportion to the body, and doesn't look too blocky. It seems many artists, professional or otherwise, have a different approach, but the approach that Hodges and Cibos give us is effective in that they don't treat the feature as a minor detail to an otherwise larger figure, but as a delicate shape that is gently but swiftly molded into a recognizable limb that gives the art more life. Another aspect of the book I enjoyed was the variety of anthropomorphic creatures shown. In the book, we see examples and illustrations using porcupines, unicorns, and even platypi. These are creatures you don't see in the fandom that often, or even not at all. The authors themselves are not furries, so I feel that allowed them to have no favorites when presenting us with these tutorials using these creatures. You see, many furry artists tend to stick to a certain set of favorites. Favorite characters, favorite subject matters, favorite fantasies. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it's certainly nothing that would stop anybody from having a successful career or finding work as an artist. I feel it hinders growth and originality as an artist after a while. And while yes, many artists were known for a signature look or style, they were always drawing an array of subject matters and taking up new mediums and genres to expand on their endless creative potential. I enjoy the work of non-furries who do furry artwork because they seem to do more than just your typical fox or husky, with less influences from their favorite movies or TV shows, doing artwork more so from the interest of giving cute, lovable animals more humanity. We see a broader range of furry creatures. I've seen things such as capybaras and orcas even, given more life and seeing them as something cuter than I ever had before. And that's what I love about furry artwork. It gives more life to these lovable creatures we share the earth with, and this is what I enjoy about this book. It is a professional and non-favorable guide to teaching young artists the beautiful and magical world of furry artwork. In conclusion, while the head and body tutorials lack detail, the features and the broad range of species and sizes are a welcoming and refreshing view of the fandom's endless potential in creating a greater extent of characters. I enjoy the fact that this book is available in both bookstores and arts and crafts stores across the US, for, like how I stated in my last video, it really shows the furry fandom's rise to a greater and more positive mainstream status. And I would highly recommend any artist curious to explore furry art, or who's interested in getting into anthropomorphic art, to give this book a try. I can guarantee there are dozens of helpful tips new artists to this creative art format can benefit from.